Imagine this, a quiet afternoon at a local animal shelter, when suddenly, a woman walks in, holding a leash. At the other end is a trembling dog, its eyes wide with confusion and fear. The woman exchanges a few words with the staff, leaves the leash behind, and walks out without looking back. The dog, now abandoned, watches helplessly as its world crumbles. But this isn't where the story ends. What happens next will restore your faith in kindness. Just as the shelter staff begin to process what's happened, an unexpected visitor arrives. A well-known advocate for animal welfare, someone who has dedicated their life to giving second chances to animals in need, steps into the picture. Their actions will change everything for this abandoned dog. What made this advocate show up at the perfect moment? And what will happen to the dog now? Stick around to find out how one act of compassion turned despair into hope. This is a story you won't want to miss. The dog, now alone, stood motionless, its tail tucked tightly between its legs. The shelter staff gently led it to a kennel, whispering soft reassurances that did little to calm its trembling body. They could tell this wasn't just fear, it was heartbreak. The dog's eyes darted to the door, as if still hoping the woman might return. But deep down, it seemed to know she wouldn't. In the days that followed, the staff worked tirelessly to make the dog feel safe. They named it Max, a name meant to symbolize strength, though Max's spirit seemed broken. He barely touched his food, flinched at every sound, and avoided eye contact. The staff speculated about his past. Was he neglected? Abused? Or simply a casualty of someone's life becoming too complicated to include him? Whatever the reason, Max's trust in humans had been shattered. Then came the phone call that would change everything. A famous animal advocate had heard about Max. Known for rescuing animals in the direst of situations, this person had a reputation for turning stories like Max's into tales of triumph. They had a network of resources, a massive online following, and, most importantly, a heart that never gave up on animals in need. The advocate arrived at the shelter a few days later, their presence commanding attention without a single word. Max, however, was unimpressed. He stayed curled in the corner of his kennel, his body language screaming, "Stay away." The advocate crouched down, speaking softly, not to coax Max out, but simply to let him know they were there. Hours passed, and while Max didn't move, something shifted in the air. The advocate left with a promise: they would be back. Behind the scenes, the advocate began digging into Max's story. They wanted to understand why he had been abandoned. With the help of their team, they pieced together fragments of information. The woman who left Max had once been devoted to him, but her life had unraveled. Financial struggles, a sudden move, and a string of personal hardships had left her feeling she had no choice. It wasn't an excuse, but it was a glimpse into the complexity of the situation. Meanwhile, the shelter staff noticed small changes in Max. He started eating again, albeit cautiously. He began to lift his head when someone approached, though his eyes still carried a haunted look. The advocate visited daily, bringing treats, toys, and an unwavering patience. They knew trust couldn't be rushed, and with Max, it seemed like an especially fragile thread. As weeks passed, the advocate made a breakthrough. One quiet afternoon, while sitting outside Max's kennel, they placed a toy just out of reach. Max hesitated, his body tense, but curiosity got the better of him. He inched forward, snatched the toy, and retreated to his corner. It was a small victory, but for the advocate, it was monumental. They knew they were finally earning Max's trust. But not everyone believed in Max's recovery. Some questioned whether the effort was worth it. Resources at the shelter were limited, and Max's needs were extensive. There were whispers about how many other dogs could be helped with the time and money being spent on one. The advocate, however, remained steadfast. They saw something in Max, a spark buried beneath the layers of fear and mistrust. They were determined to prove that every life mattered, no matter how broken it seemed. As the advocate fought for Max, they also faced challenges from the online world. When they shared Max's story, the reactions were mixed. Some people offered support, donations, and adoption inquiries. Others criticized the woman who had abandoned him, while a few even questioned whether Max could ever be rehabilitated. The advocate knew these opinions came with the territory, but it didn't make them any easier to bear. Still, they used the attention to raise awareness about the struggles of shelter animals and the importance of giving second chances. Amid all this, Max's story took another unexpected turn. One day, a family visited the shelter, drawn by the advocate's posts about him. They had recently lost their dog and were looking to adopt again. When they saw Max, their hearts ached for him. But as they approached his kennel, Max's reaction was immediate. He backed into the corner, barking and growling in sheer panic. The family left, disappointed but understanding. It was clear Max wasn't ready. The incident left the advocate questioning everything. Were they pushing too hard? Was Max truly meant to find a home? Or would he spend the rest of his life in fear? These doubts lingered, but they refused to give up. They decided to take Max out of the shelter environment, hoping a change of scenery might help. With the shelter's permission, they brought him to their rehabilitation center, a peaceful place designed to help animals heal. The first few days were rocky. Max resisted every attempt to interact, even snapping at the advocate when they tried to leash him. But the advocate didn't see aggression, they saw fear. Slowly, they worked to create a routine, using consistency to build a sense of safety. Max began to explore the center, his steps tentative but growing bolder each day. Then came a moment no one expected. One evening, as the advocate sat on the ground reviewing notes, Max approached them unprompted. He sniffed their hand, his body still tense but less guarded. The advocate froze, letting Max take the lead. When he finally sat down beside them, it was as if the weight of the world had lifted. It wasn't trust, not yet, but it was a start. As Max continued to make progress, the advocate faced another dilemma. The woman who had abandoned Max reached out after seeing his story online. She was overwhelmed with guilt and wanted to explain herself. The advocate didn't know what to think. Could someone who had caused so much pain be given a chance to make amends? And if they met, what impact would it have on Max's fragile recovery? The decision loomed large, adding another layer of complexity to an already emotional journey. For Max, the road ahead was still uncertain. Would he ever fully trust again? Could he find a forever home? And what role, if any, would his former owner play in his future? The advocate wrestled with the decision to let Max's former owner back into his life. It wasn't an easy choice. On one hand, they believed in second chances for both animals and people. On the other, they worried about the potential setback it could cause for Max, who was only just beginning to trust again. After much deliberation, they decided to meet the woman, but under strict conditions. It would be in a neutral setting, and Max's well-being would remain the top priority. The meeting was arranged at the rehabilitation center, in a quiet outdoor space where Max had started to feel more at ease. The woman arrived looking nervous, clutching a small bag of treats she'd brought as a peace offering. Her guilt was palpable, and as she explained her side of the story, tears streamed down her face. She spoke of losing her job, her home, and the overwhelming feeling of failure that had led her to make the heartbreaking decision to leave Max at the shelter. She had believed he would find a better life without her, but seeing his story online had made her realize the depth of the pain she had caused. The advocate listened carefully, their expression unreadable. When the woman finished, they explained the progress Max had made and the delicate nature of his recovery. They made it clear that while her regret was evident, any interaction with Max would need to be handled with the utmost care. The woman nodded, her hands trembling as she waited to see if she would be allowed to meet him. Max was brought out cautiously, his leash held loosely by the advocate. He hesitated at first, his nose twitching as he caught the woman's scent. For a moment, it seemed like he recognized her. His ears perked up, and he took a tentative step forward, but then he froze, his body tense. The woman knelt down, speaking softly, her voice cracking with emotion. "I'm so sorry, Max," she whispered. She didn't reach for him, letting him decide whether to come closer. Max's reaction was hesitant, but not fearful. He sniffed the air, his tail giving the faintest wag, before he retreated to the advocate's side. It wasn't a full reunion, but it wasn't a rejection either. The advocate took this as a sign to end the meeting on a positive note, thanking the woman for coming and encouraging her to focus on rebuilding her life. They left the door open for future updates, but made it clear that Max's needs would always come first. In the weeks that followed, Max continued to grow more confident. He began to enjoy walks, wag his tail more freely, and even play with a few of the other dogs at the center. The advocate shared his progress online, and the response was overwhelmingly supportive. People from all over the world sent messages of encouragement, donations to support his care, and offers to adopt him. But the advocate knew Max needed a very specific kind of home, one that could provide patience, understanding, and a quiet environment where he could continue to heal. One day, a retired couple visited the center. They had been following Max's story and felt drawn to him. They lived on a large fenced property with plenty of space for a dog to roam and relax. More importantly, they had experience with rescue animals and understood the challenges that came with them. The advocate watched closely as the couple interacted with Max. At first, he was wary, but their calm demeanor seemed to put him at ease. By the end of their visit, Max was lying at their feet, his tail thumping softly against the ground. After a thorough vetting process, the advocate decided this couple was the right match for Max. The day he left the rehabilitation center was bittersweet. The staff and volunteers who had grown attached to him gathered to say goodbye, many of them wiping away tears. The advocate walked Max to the couple's car, kneeling down to give him one last hug. "You've got this, buddy," they whispered. "You're going to be so loved." Max's transition to his new home was carefully managed. The advocate stayed in touch with the couple, offering guidance and support as Max adjusted to his new surroundings. It wasn't an overnight transformation. There were still moments of fear and hesitation, but over time, Max began to thrive. He explored the sprawling yard, played with his new toys, and even found a favorite spot by the fireplace where he loved to curl up. The woman who had abandoned Max stayed in touch with the advocate as well. She sent updates about her own journey, sharing that she had found stable work and was volunteering at a local shelter to give back. While she never reunited with Max, she found peace in knowing he was happy and safe. Max's story became a symbol of resilience and redemption. The advocate used it to raise awareness about the challenges shelter animals face and the importance of responsible pet ownership. They also highlighted the complexities of human struggles, reminding people that while abandoning an animal is never the right choice, understanding and compassion can lead to healing for everyone involved. Years later, Max was a completely different dog. His once fearful eyes now sparkled with joy, and his tail rarely stopped wagging. The retired couple often sent photos and videos to the advocate, showing Max running through fields, lounging in the sun, and even playing gently with their grandchildren. His journey had come full circle, proving that with love, patience, and determination, even the most broken spirits can be mended. The advocate reflected on Max's story. They felt a deep sense of fulfillment. It wasn't just about saving one dog, it was about the ripple effect of kindness, the power of second chances, and the belief that every life, no matter how small or scarred, is worth fighting for. Max's story was a reminder that hope is always possible, even in the darkest moments. And for those who followed his journey, it was a testament to the incredible things that can happen when we choose compassion over judgment and love over fear.